Welcome back to COVID-19 Local Sports Impact Peterborough. I'm Dan Malta with Scott Arnold in the studio, and we've gone through a number of guests so far, Scott, and the questions are the same for really everybody we're seeing because the issues are the same, and the sports community is dealing with this in different ways, but everybody affected and not being able to do what they want to do and get their escape, which are sports right now. And what's been your takeaway to this point from what we've heard from our guests?
It's tough. You look in everyone's eyes who has come on and talk, and you can see it in their eyes how disappointed they are, and the fact that there are no answers and that we don't have an end in sight, that makes it that much more, I wouldn't say frustrating. No one seems frustrated. Everyone just kind of seems down and sad. And
yes.
We're without our sports, like you talk about. That's our lifeline for many of us, and we keep talking about mental health in terms of exercising. Well, for a lot of people, escaping to watch sports or playing sports is good for their mental health in a sense as well. So when you have nothing to do except sit at home all day, some people can't even get outside. That's very demoralizing. And the one thing that I took out from all these guests is just the sadness in everyone's eyes, and it really hits home. I mean, we're all going through this in different ways, but it all has a trickle-down effect to the community that we live in. And it's tough talking to all these people and seeing what they're going through, but the fact that the whole community is going through that is a little, I don't want to use the word comforting because none of us are comforted by it, but it's a relief. Yeah. And it's just nice to know that you have your brothers and sisters, so to speak, in the community of Peterborough to lean on during times like this. And the support from everyone has been fantastic, whether it's the guests or the community. We keep drilling on that, but that's the one big takeaway. It's only been a week. It feels like it's been a month since all this has happened, but in that 1 week, just in talking to everybody, nobody has been, from talking to me, nobody's been upset, nobody's been yelling. Everyone's just been positive and chill and just sort of taking it all in. It's like we're in California on the beach, well, except we're
California's on
inside.
Lockdown right now, but we'll avoid that.
Oh, I canceled my trip.
Yes, but we, for the most part, focused on the sports that we're participating in, or we have participated in, not the sports that we're watching on TV. And that's what we have in the Peterborough Petes. And on the line, we have Dave Pogue, the president of the Peterborough Petes. Dave, and I'll actually get into something with you quickly first, and that's Team 55, one of your initiatives. Scott was just mentioning mental health. But not being able to put on that event, imagine putting yourself there. How difficult would that be for you, organizing that? I know Dan O'Toole, who was going to be involved in the Gaskell Cup in town, he's been a part of that before. But how hard-hitting would that be for you in that organization? And we've lost Dave, so we'll get Dave Pogue back. But yeah, Scott, that's something that you're familiar with as well as the Team 55, the football game, Friday Night Lights at the start of every year in terms of mental health. And that's just another example of sports bringing people together and bringing out a positive message. And going forward without sports is what we're trying to cover today. And what are your personal solutions? And I just walk my dog a lot, and I don't know but that's going to get mundane after a little bit of time as well. We are 1 week into this. Do you see the community coming together on the tail end with fundraisers and to pick everybody back up and put everybody right back where they belong? I
do. We've seen from this community in Peterborough how giving and generous people are. More people are affected. We've never had this situation. We're still going to have some people in our community, though, that are going to be a little better off than some others. People have lost their jobs. They've, are forced to find other means to get finances. They've got kids who are at home away from March break. So I think once this is all said and done, the community is going to rally together like we've never seen before.
All right, so now we do have Dave Pogue, president of the Peterborough Petes, back on the line. Dave, thanks for joining us. And Dave, we were just talking about Team 55 and how that organization is out there and being important for people when it comes to their mental health. Could you imagine having that event canceled? We were just talking about the Gaskell Cup earlier in the show. But what effect would that have for you personally as somebody who organizes it and the people who are taking part every year?
Well, first of all, I felt really horrible for the guys with the Gaskell Cup when I heard they had to cancel. I know how much work that they put into that, and I know for a fact how much effort the volunteers put into our events, and the Gaskell Cup's much the same. So, hey, let's hope that what's going on right now in our community and in the world isn't still happening in September. We'd have bigger problems than we have now for sure. But yeah, it would be devastating with the amount of effort that's put together, but also because we put these events on for a specific reason, and that's to get a message out. And listen, this is a time where if you're suffering from mental health issues and anxiety, this is a tough time, and that's one of the things we need to be remembering at this particular time, where a lot of people are shut in and we are having our social distance. I mean, guys, you know me, I'm a social guy. I'm struggling with this. I like to be around people. I like to chat sports. I like to be at the rink. I like to shake hands, and it's been a real change, and it's been a little bit difficult to adjust, but you know, at this point, we don't have much choice.
And as you do look at this from the Peterborough Petes perspective, I know that there were meetings around the league and it was come to the decision, or the conclusion was made that the regular season is no more. That's not going to happen. The Peterborough Petes wind up finishing in third place in the conference. They're second in terms of points, but it's been a good year for the Peterborough Petes. Excitement was certainly building in this town and around the OHL, even when looking at the team with players like Nick Robertson, Semender Argachinsev, a close attachment to the most popular hockey team in North America. I think it's safe to say in the Toronto Maple Leafs. You guys were feeling the benefits of that. You might not get to reap the rewards going forward. How difficult is it going to be, and how difficult is it going to be to cope with the fact that you might be missing out on so much when it does come down to it if a playoff run doesn't happen in Peterborough? I know that was something that you guys are anticipating.
Well, listen, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I was very much frustrated, and that the whole organization is, and disappointed. You know, it's tough to have such a great season impacted like this as a team, and as you mentioned, individually, Nick Robertson with the goals, and you know, chasing the goal record. Zach Gallant, 5 years with the team in his final season. You know, but as an organization, our message is to stay positive, and I got the opportunity to meet with the team before we released them to go home for the break. I've met with the coaches, I've met with the business staff, and I've tried to ingrain in them that we cannot shut down mentally. We cannot give up on this. You know, until somebody tells us the entire season, including playoffs, is over, we're going to stay positive at the Peterborough Petes, and we're going to work towards some sort of a postseason, however that may look and whenever that may be. We're trying to stay positive with that.
When you guys do build your season and you do your projections going forward, you bank on the X amount of home games. It's 34 home games during the regular season, and then who knows how many playoff games you might be getting. When you do your preseason projections on where you might be landing from a financial standpoint, how hard do you have to look at your books right now to make sure that you are going to be okay based off what you are banking on?
Well, certainly in this league and in a small market, the norm, if you have a mildly successful season, you need those 34 games just to break even. Now, thanks to our fans, thanks to our advertisers and all of our supporters, we were up in attendance. Things have been going very well for us because of the product we had on the ice and how hard the business group were working. So we had a nice little head start there, but losing those three regular season games is definitely going to hurt us on the bottom line, and you know, depending on how many playoff games, if any, we can put together, that's going to be crucial on us being the difference between making money and losing money. I mean, in most years in the Ontario Hockey League, a third of the teams will make money, a third will lose money, and a third will break even. And in a market our size, break even is usually the norm. You know, as they say, make hay when the sun shines, and we really felt the sun was shining this year, and a lot of hard work and effort's gone into it. It is disappointing. It's definitely going to cost us, and but we're going to continue to forge ahead as we are right now until we see what develops, if anything, for the playoffs.
And Dave, you mentioned you guys are staying positive and you're looking ahead as if the season will go on. It's great to be positive during times like this, but we also have to be realistic. How realistic do you think it is that we are going to have some sort of a finish to this OHL season with a playoff?
I can't answer that, Scott. I mean, those answers are going to come from our health officials. Frankly, I have to shut off CNN and I have to shut off TSN. It's the mix. Sometimes it gets to be too much doom and gloom for me. Sometimes it gets to be too much speculation, and I don't want to speculate as to what will happen. Again, the message for our business staff is to keep pushing ticket sales. Whether we're going to be playing hockey in 3 weeks or 3 months, the one thing we know for sure is people are going to be itching to get back to the rink, and that's players and that's fans. So our job is to continue to engage with those fans and try to give them as much information as we possibly can and go forward. So I can't answer what the reality is. I look for the positives in it, and again, all I can say is I hope that we're going to see some sort of a postseason. I was on the Board of Governor call on the other day when we made the decision to drop the rest of the regular season. And I can tell you that everyone shares my opinion. I could tell that everyone in the league and all the owners all are pushing hard to have some sort of a postseason. I'm sure they have multiple different options on the table as to how they'll make that work, and I would assume some of those options will fall off the table as time moves on if we're not back to the ice. And I just hope that one of those options include us and we actually get back to playing.
Dave, you mentioned communication with fans and that your staff are still touching base, getting the message out there. Do you have a lot of season ticket holders and a lot of fans contacting you guys right now, or has it been pretty quiet on that end?
The busiest day was Thursday, the 12th, the game against Sudbury, when there was a real unknown and it started to become a reality. Are the Petes playing tonight? So the phones were ringing off the hook that day until it was official that the season was being put on pause. But I have to say the fans have been really, really good. We've had a lot of letters of support saying that we're doing the right thing. We really don't have much choice. That they're going to be there when we come back. And when we think about what the fans can do right now when they don't have the hockey, one of the biggest things, they can go out and support, the many great local corporate partners that we have, because there's still a lot of them that have products to sell and services to offer, even if we don't. And, their success is what drives our success. So, wherever possible, and I know a lot of us are trying to stay home as much as possible and distance ourselves, but we still got to get out to the stores to get the essentials, and we've got some great local partners that have helped us and supported us, and I think the fans can do that, and they can keep in touch on our social media, and our group is trying to engage the fans with as much content as possible, and to keep them up to date and to keep them entertained.
Has there been a directive from the OHL? I know that if you pay attention to the YouTube page for the OHL, they're actually doing live broadcasts of old games, whether they be from the 80s, 70s, or 90s going forward. Has there been a directive from the OHL to try and tell teams how to operate during this downtime where they're not sure where things are going next in order to stay relevant? I know you talked about trying to put as much content out there as possible, but was there a message from the league on how to do that?
No, not at all. The league allows the teams to operate how they see fit. They don't really, aside from the factual information that we are given to put forward, and information that we're given that we can pass on to players and billets, each organization is expected to run as best they can. And that's one of the things that makes me positive at a time like this. I know what kind of a business group we have, and how hard they're working. We have moved our business group. They're all working from home. Burton Lee, our executive director of business ops, is monitoring what everyone's doing. They've all got their targets. They continue to sell and they can, and they're having their morning conference call meetings. So they're not taking their foot off the pedal, and I know that Mike Oak, our GM, is in constant contact with the players. We've got our folks from Hybrid Fitness are contacting the players every couple of days to make sure that they've got ways to keep fit during this time. And our doctors are contacting the players to keep up on their health and making sure that we don't have anyone infected. And so, we're doing everything we can to stay engaged. And I told everybody, use this break to try and get a leg up on the competition, because maybe someone else is sitting back and thinking, hey, it's not going to happen. And if it does, they'll be surprised, and we'll be ready.
We had Josh Gillum in here earlier, actually, talking about the programs that he sent off with your players from the Peterborough Petes. And you brought up the billet families, or we brought up the billet families, and that's an interesting scenario. I know Nick Robertson, he's at home with his family. A lot of players would have gone home to their own families. Billet families are in a very unique position where they're actually receiving funding from you guys in order to help feed the players and house the players. I know it's not a significant amount, but it's there. Has that continued, and how is that planning going forward?
Well, going forward, I can't answer you because I don't know where, we really don't know what's in front of us. But all billet families that have players in their homes continue to get their funding. But I'm pretty sure that most, if not all, of the players have returned to their own homes at this point to be with their families in their home cities.
All right. So, well, Dave, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And I understand your family is actually in self-isolation right now as well?
Well, my wife's on her way back from Florida. I was down there for a couple of weeks. I got back last Tuesday, and I got back before the self-isolation, but I have done my best to try to keep distance, which is one of the reasons why I didn't make the trip down to your studio today, so I apologize for that, but trying to practice what I preach. And so my wife's going to be home. I'm not really sure how we're going to work that one out, because she'll have to go into 2-week quarantine. My son and daughter-in-law and grandson, they got home just on Monday, so they're doing their 2-week isolation. But they're out on the farm, and that's where I spend most of my time. So, you're in isolation most of the time farming anyway. So I've been spending the last couple of weeks with the cows and the sheep out there, and keeping busy outside. So that's what I enjoy doing, and it keeps me, I think, a safe distance from everything else that's going on.
Well, we're happy to hear that, and good luck with the draft on April 4th. That'll give you something else to take your mind off of all this, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that now that they've settled on a 61-game season, and we know that we're where we position. We'll be picking 15th, and I know that Mike and his scouting staff have worked extremely hard, and they got a lot of legwork in before this point, so they feel very confident that they've got the intel that they need, and will be prepared to, hopefully select some great prospects for us on the 4th.
All right, thanks for your time, Dave. Look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, Dave Pogue, president of the Peterborough Petes. Scott, what did you think about what he was saying? Was there anything that you didn't expect to hear?
Well, I was trying to press him for an answer to see if he knew a little more than what we did, maybe, if he'd heard from the OHL there. But clearly it's an open-ended cancellation from what they're told. But he sounds very hopeful, and they're staying positive during all this. So I'm going to jump on his positivity train and hope that we do see a playoff.
Now, when the NBA canceled, it was dominoes going right across the entire sports world. In terms of junior leagues that have canceled to this point, the CCHL, which is Tier 2 hockey in Canada, their seasons are toast. It's all over. The USHL, which some would call a comparable to the OHL, season completely done. Why do you think the OHL is still holding on?
The OHL is a unique league, and I know all the leagues have been around for a while, but David Branch, he's very strong at the helm, and I think he just wants to be absolutely certain and make sure that he crosses all his T's and dots his I's. I know the other commissioners are hoping that as well, but I think Branch, just from his experience being around, I'm not saying he knows something we don't, but I just think he's holding out hope, and he's going to wait till somebody basically tells him, you got to make the call right now.
And a great point that you brought up is the rules in Kelowna where the Memorial Cup is going to be held. They can't have a gathering, and that goes until June 1st. There's also the consideration of multiple countries being involved here. There are teams in the States in the CHL, but talk about quickly in BC, if the Memorial Cup is going to be held, when can they hold it?
That's the thing. Do you push it back and then you affect all the summer tourism in Kelowna, which is a hotbed for wine country and golf and all that sort of stuff? It doesn't affect the arenas, but hotels and all that fun stuff that goes along with it. So I don't think you can push the Memorial Cup back. I think at this point, if anything continues, the three leagues will do separate, and OHL will just go for the OHL title and crown a champion, hopefully, and be done with it. But I don't see a Memorial Cup happening this season.
Yeah, I think most people are with you there. It's just hard to imagine at this point in time. Hard to imagine every single thing that we've talked about to this point. We'd like to thank all of our guests who joined us on COVID-19 Local Sports Impact here on your TV. Take care of each other, everybody.